Welcome everybody to Waconia Ride-In 2019 with a featured snowmobile of Skidoo. I'm Scott Wakefield, by the way, Waconia committee member, and I'm with another Waconia committee member, Les Pinz. Les, what do you think so far with the Waconia Ride-In 2019?
It's super. We just seen so many different sleds and everything else, and so many different people. Everybody's got a smile on their face, and that's what it's all about, especially the kids. They're relating the history of what made snowmobiling, and it's so great to see all these different types of snowmobiles out here and restored with the history.
And another big, beautiful crowd here at our 25th annual Waconia Ride-In. The sun's out, Waconia's great, no wind, and we're gonna have a good time today. We're gonna take you folks along with us, and we're gonna go through these Skidoos coming up right now. Let's start out with the Skidoo Survivor class, 1959 through 1969. Les, what do we got here to start off with?
Well, this is a narrow track, 15-inch, and it's a 1959 single-cylinder Rotex motor made in Austria.
Made in Austria, folks.
And when they were first starting, they got the motors and everything else from Germany and Austria because they were water pump motors. They didn't design snowmobile engines till around 1970. 1970 is when they still found out that they were doing enough production of the snowmobiles that they could afford to build their own motors. This is a narrow track, 15-inch track, rubber track and skis. Most of the people, they were narrow like this because there was no trails. They could get through the woods. Trappers use these a lot, and fishermen, because they were so handy and light. You could ride on your knees, or you could ride here and there all over. Pop-up headlight, tail light, little compartment here opens up for your storage, and a fuel tank that was in the belly pan, and they were just cool sleds. People ride them now a little bit, and they just kind of maneuver them through the snow.
Yep.
And they're just a hoot. People, it smiles. Every time you see one of these, they got a smile on their face.
Yep, a lot of the sleds started back in the 30s were based on Model T vehicles that had tracks on the backs and skis on the front. And let's just go a little bit more vintage, Les, and take a look at this. Not much to this one, but it's transportation. It was very, very popular. They sold a lot of these, right, Les?
Yes. They started out with these, and this is a 1961 Skidoo. And when they first started, they made these, and they sent one to Duluth, Minnesota, and a company up there called Halverson's, and they took and put this on a sled like this on the back of a group of trailer, and they didn't know what to do with it because they were buying equipment for the logging industry and the wide trucks and everything else. Well, they got this here, and he says, "Whoa, what's that for?" So they stuck it in the corner, and he says, and one of the employees says, "Hey, that kind of looks kind of fun. Maybe can I take it home for the weekend?" He took it home for the weekend. He come back, "Wow, this is really cool," you know. And it's just got a 4-stroke, 7-horse motor with a little thin seat, but the whole family had a ball with it. And after that, they said, "Well, hey, maybe we could sell some of these." And then it started. They started importing them in Duluth, and they had dealers all over. In 1971. They made 617,000 snowmobiles in industry. And so there were so many different manufacturers. As we go along, we'll see all the different types of manufacturers. But the main thing, they were made for fun, but they were still utility units.
Right.
For fishing, trapping, this and that.
Served a purpose back in the day. You can imagine Dad, 2 kids, and Mom hanging on the back, all 4 of them out for the day, having a great time. For entertainment. That was before they had the internet and computers and iPhones and satellite TV. You had to go out and make your own fun.
See, these were metal hoods and stuff like that, and these weren't that fast, and they didn't have brakes back then. You just let off the gas and it kind of stopped.
Yep.
So it just super cool.
Very cool.
It's so nice to see these restored and not tore up.
Right. Rest-modded or redone or whatever. We're gonna move on here again for some more of our 59 through 69. Now these are the restored class we're gonna get into next. So these babies have gone through the shop, got some paint on them, new parts put in. Les, what do we got here?
This is a again a Skidoo with a Rotex motor, 1967, and you can see it's got a little more plush and everything else. Has a kickstand, drops down so you can lift it up and warm the motor up, the track up as it goes. It's got boogie wheels with a rubber track, and so you could drive it almost anywhere. It had a real little nifty thing here to open the headlight at night, otherwise close it down so you could just look super cool and clean. Chrome bumper, they got a better bumper that you could bounce off of trees as he went, trying, having fun.
I noticed myself, Les, is all the amount of chrome that was on this one. Beautiful chrome handlebars in the back, they're just gorgeous. And so they're kind of, Skidoo's like, okay, we get it, there's money in this, let's go ahead and pick this up and make these very, very nice. Moving on now, next, Les, we got a 1963. We got the Kohler motor in here, 7 horsepower motor.
Yep, 4-stroke. They were still 4-stroke motors because that's all they could really buy. They had some 2-stroke, but they were still 4-stroke. One thing about 4-stroke, it's a little bit heavier, but it's very smooth. It's very reliable. And this is something just cool because you can get out into places you never got out before to see in the backwoods and everything else. And glove box here. Little headlight, looks like almost like a bicycle kind of a headlight utility. They still use the gas tank in the belly pan, and rubber track with boogie wheels. Beautiful looking sled, a lot of history. The main thing is the story behind these vehicles. If you could have a story pole that you could push up against it and could tell a story, oh, the kids and the family, oh man, I come home from school and I rode and rode and rode. Yep. They have more history of these than everybody can believe. It's just super.
Now we got a 62 next to it with the J-Lo motor in this one, Les.
Yep, they tried J-Lo motors. It's a German motor manufacturer. The motor was made more for a water pump and utility. They tried them for a year or whatever, and they didn't like what it was, so they went to Rotex in Austria. They liked the motor so well, I think it was 1970 they bought the company, so they could custom make motors, and until this time they still use Rotex motors in Skidoos, and they can have that company like that, so they decide practicality to work with the snowmobile. And then again, metal body first. It took a while to come up with a fiberglass body because of the cold and everything else in the design.
So speaking of Rotex, we got a 10 horsepower Rotex in this 67 Olympic, Les.
Yeah, they see how it's nice and shiny. Yeah. Each manufacturer, as we go along, you'll see has their distinctive color, and some are red, some are green, some are black, but Skidoo always had yellow and with a little black trim, so they're really super cool looking. You always could see them, and that was the thing. Your neighbor got a new sled. Wow, that was super.
Stood out with the yellow color. We'll skip one here and we'll go over to this 1965 with the J-Lo in it. What a beautiful, beautiful machine.
This is a Rotex in this, a small Rotex motor in this one, and it was still starting and had a little exhaust on it, but it just cool.
I like the venting in here in front.
This is I think it was the only year they made in '65. They made the little V on it, and it was for Velmont or whatever, but that was the only one they brought it out.
Or Valcourt,
yep, Valcourt. Excuse me. Yes, and they said it had a center fuel tank yet. And look how beautiful this looks. Yep. This has a lot of character.
Red tips on the end of the skis.
So you can see your ski tips where they're at. Yeah.
In the snow, yep, exactly. Some more replicas. Here we have a restored class, 59 through 69 as we work our way down.
This is the first one they came with. It's a opposed motor. It was like this, like a Porsche, and a twin cylinder. And they call that a boxer kind of motor because it fired back on the same time. They only made this in this Olympic one year.
1968 was the year that they made that.
Right. They used this motor in the utility machine Alpine for about 5 years after that. They designed their own clutches and variable drive belts so you accelerate and very smooth. No shifting and just go through the trails.
We've seen a couple of these versions before. These in the restored class like we had earlier, and then the V for Valcourt on this one here. Obviously very nice restorations class.
Yes, a lot of these are very rare, and that's why it's so cool to see these. This is just history in the making right here. And yellow, and the way they do these, it's a lot of care they've done on this. The owners have taken a lot of shop time and are very proud of these.
We've got a special guest with us now, John Bauer from Wisconsin, and his beautiful collection. John, tell us a little bit more about what you got here.
Well, we got a bunch of skidoos. First of all, I guess give you a little background. I started racing in '65, raced all the way up until '74, and had a shop fire, lost a lot of these sleds, so it's taken me several years to accumulate a collection again. At Gary Olson's Sports Cycle,
Right.
and these were old water pump engines that they started out to be. And those guys got them out there, a couple of them out there, and they started putting 66 Skidoo AS cylinders, aluminum cylinders on there, and fitting them to that lower unit. So technically this is probably one of the first twin cylinder Skidoos that came out, and actually Dwayne Franzen won the world championship in 1967 on one of these. So
Yeah, what the main thing was trying to do, we're trying to get more horsepower, and because we were kind of crazy, we had the aspect of going faster and having the thrill of riding.
That's right.
And that's why we were trying to adapt any motor that they could find out there, and we put different cylinders, different cranks, and everything else on them to make them.
unless you were back in the day when they were even putting boat motors.
Oh yeah,
and putting them on with radiators and stuff on them and stuff like that. And so anything that they tried,
even drone motors, four-cylinder drones, they were trying anything that, and to be competitive, even open class. So this is really a rare sled.
This one here is a home-built tin cab. A friend of mine, Keith Warning, had it, and he wanted a tin cab that would beat the other tin cabs. This one does do that. It's got a two-stroke Kohler in it instead of the four-stroke Kohlers. And it's kind of resembles a 61 tin cab Skidoo. I took it on the ride yesterday, and it was a hoot. It was a lot of fun. So
you got a lot of cheers and a lot of smiles.
A lot of going down.
Everybody going to give you a thumbs up and everything else.
Right. This one here is a Blizzard 7500. Beautiful sled, beautiful riding. That's kind of when they went to the from that into this kind of riding comfort and fast, lower to the ground, a lot of unique things.
Well, what did they do now? The motor's gone.
The motor's under the hood. They
really?
went forward mount on them.
Well,
so
how did they get this now? I see this gauge here. It says water temperature.
They went with liquid cooling on them and things like that. So they had quantum leaps, so to speak. So
well, what did the water cooling do?
It cooled around the cylinders,
right?
So that sometimes if it got into the 30s or the 40 degrees, you could ride your sled. Where those other ones depended on cold air. And these made it a lot more manageable. You had consistent power bands. You didn't have the heat flux and stuff like that you had and stuff like that.
This is just getting more modern. It's just wider too. But the main thing is the cooling would be more power. You can put more power to it, and it'd be more, like you said, more consistent.
More consistent.
Now this is kind of cool. Look at here.
Yeah, this is just a little 68 Chalet. They were trying to get. The manufacturers were trying to make it family orientated in the 60s. So if like a little 8-horse Chalet, maybe the husband had a 10-horse, the wife would have an 8-horse. Little smaller gal, they put this little brace in there so she wouldn't slide off the back of the seat with all 8 horse of power. You could slide all the way to the back of the seat if you weren't careful.
The main thing is getting the family involved.
That's right.
And even they made this bracket right on the tongue.
Right on. All the sleds that came from Velcor had that little bracket on it. On the back here, you see that little leather bag. You put your wieners in there and your charcoal and other provisions, and go out in the woods and have some fun.
One thing about this sled is very easy to tip up and stuff like that. And you can see the rubber track and the boogie wheels. It was greasable, the wheels and everything. They were light to spin around, flip around, and this and that. But
Skidoo's motto was the light-footed one. So that was their motto for years. Skidoo was the light-footed one. And really, you could, back in those days, there weren't any trails. You made your own trails, so you needed a light sled.
That's why Skidoos were so narrow, they could go through the trees.
Right.
And the competition was a little wider. They get stuck in there. We'd laugh about that.
And they had cleated tracks and things like that would just dig down and you'd be sunk, where these things were just go wherever they
Yeah.
wanted.
It
That's
would
for sure.
give a very light footprint.
Right, very light, very light.
Yeah. Well, thank you, sir.
Well, thank you, Les.
Very much for coming.
And thank you guys and,
thanks
for putting this on and stuff. This is really
thanks
nice.
for being such a person to
Right.
to redo the history. That's
well,
what's
thank you very much. Thank you very much. Alrighty.
Scott Wakefield here, back with Les Pinz at the 2019 Waconia Ride-In. Featured snowmobile is Skidoo. And last we got ourselves a 1971 Alpine twin tracker. Not all snowmobiles just have one track. They made snowmobiles with twin tracks.
Yes. So they could go through more places. You'll see there's a single ski up here in the bumper, so they can go through the brush and everything else. And this is made for doing its own trail. It isn't trail rider or nothing like that. This is kind of cool here. You see the old gas line. Even the gas line gets all stiff after so many years. And you have to replace that every once in a while. But he's even got a rear view mirror here. So it's got forward, reverse, and it's about a 25 horse motor in here, 399. Very modern and everything else, but it's mainly made for making a trail. What else we got, Scott?
Yep, this is the survivor class. So these snowmobiles have survived all these years. So there's no restorations or alterations done to them. They are what they are. And we got here 1978 Skidoo Everest coming out of Rochester, Minnesota. Let's tell me a little bit more about an Everest.
It's just a more modern sled. You'll see the design they have and then how they make their decals a lot cooler. More trying to anticipate and get more people interested in snowmobiling. This is a 340 Rotex in again. This is a 1978. It's got padded and handlebars, high-low speed, switch for your high headlight, nice brake handle, nice big windshield, more comfort. That's what they're looking for.
Well, we're supposed to get a little more snow this afternoon. We might even have ourselves a blizzard, but we have a blizzard actually right here with us now, a 1981 Skidoo Blizzard MX. Les, tell me about a blizzard.
You see on the back here, it even has outboard shocks, so it gives you a little bit better travel to up and down. Again, they were looking at more luxury. Covered gas tank, the tank was finally in the center here, motor up front, better gauges, nicer handlebars, just accessories, easier, kill switch here, high-low beam on the handlebar, bigger brakes, and everything, just more luxury. The front end, you had more of a movement on your front end of your skis. They were getting more of a Cadillac effect, and that's what they wanted to try for families and everything else. That this is a more luxury, better riding snowmobile.
Yep, the manufacturer's technology was always changing in snowmobiling. You've got an 81 Blizzard, and here we have a 79. Big difference between the two of them. You can see how the manufacturer's really done the upgrades on what? The ride. The ride is so important to the people. Creature comforts, the comforts of going out and snowmobiling. That means what? More sales. More sales means more money. Look at the difference between the two here, Les.
And more satisfied people. This is more of a family touring. This is more the hot rod GTO. This is a high performance zipper that can you go out and beat your neighbor. But this, you can see how plush this is and how high, more travel. This is a nicer looking, just a sleek sled that just goes lickety-split back in the day.
Right, so this one kind of has like a race look to it, This one has a complete opposite of a race look to it, but it's got a 640 in it, last. A 640 Rotax motor in this. Although it doesn't look like a race sled, it's got a much bigger motor in it.
It's a bigger motor, more torque, more power, but yet this one here might put out more power, but this has got more torque. It's got forward and reverse in it too, but look at the color. Yep. They're getting away from the kind of the yellow and stuff like that, and they just had a different color look to try to see if they could sell it. It's a luxury unit. You see the chrome skis, look at that. Isn't that beautiful yet? And the chrome, and this one here, you can see that somebody took very good care of it.
Yeah, again, these are survivors that have survived the years. Gas tank is still up front on that one, Les.
Yes, and that model it is, but they have more of a dash back here.
Yep. All right. Okay, we've got our trail restore class coming up here next. We got a Skidoo Nordic. They made tons. How many Nordics did they actually make, Les?
I don't know how many they made, but back in '71, they made roughly 212,000 units.
Yeah.
And it was just unreal how many, everybody had to have a snowmobile.
Right.
And there were different colors, different brands, but Skidoo was the most well-known back then, and they still are #1 manufacturer.
Today.
Yep.
So right behind you, you've got here a 2-seater, so you and the wife can go now and I guess the kid's got to stay at home or the kid comes along. But something a little bit different. We got an Elite here, Les. Tell us about that.
This is really cool because it's kind of like a small car, and they started in 70. This is 73. It's got dash and everything else. It's forward reverse on this, and with even a roll bar. Motor was in the rear, 2 tracks, kind of heavy, so you didn't want to get off the trail too much because you might get stuck in adventuring off. So it was mostly just a trail ride to a restaurant
Yep. Perfect. And a nice beauty here we got, Les. I don't know so much wind protection on this one, but it looks like somebody can ride in the back.
But this is mainly a low windshield makes you look cooler. It makes you, yeah, and the thing is you feel the wind more, and this is more of a backyard kid that likes to race and run around and be fancy. One thing, go back here to a minute here on this TNT. Look at, he even had a Skidoo flag on. You don't see them this is really rare, a Skidoo flag with a leather pouch bag, and that's for more cargo and everything else. You'll see one thing about Skidoo, at every manufacturer, they had their own design on their seat, which is really neat. But the main thing is when you go to restore a sled, it's the seat that's the number one. If you get a good seat, and then you can do the rest of it. But the seat is so hard to duplicate when they make your grooves, and they had their own intention of doing that. But it looks beautiful. Oh, Scott, look at this. Oh, look at this.
Look at the hot rod we got
Oh
here,
my gosh, look at that. Look at
$494.
Look at the carburetors on that. You know, and one thing about the carburetor, Scott, was really cool. When you had a you get gas all over your front of your snowmobile suit,
right?
And you'd stick. Everybody come in. Oh, you've been snowmobiling, but you have a smile.
Like it,
But you have a smile on your face because it was such a hoot.
Yep, exactly. 1966. What a beauty that is. You got a 1966 right next to it, Les.
Yep, that's a dual carburetors too. The reason the dual carburetors to get more fuel in, and this one here has a megaphone. A megaphone will give you about 126 dBAs, so you can't ride it around your neighborhood, but it does give you a little more extra power. And this is made into a free air, just kind of a hot rod sled.
And these are our race pre-78 unrestored sleds we're looking at here, Les. And we got a 1967 on this one.
This is a pose. The same thing again. The pistons went like this. Like I said, they only made 1 year this way, and then they put it in the Alpine. But this has got tune pipes on it again with a little tachometer. And like you said, this was made for racing, backyard, beach your buddies.
The difference is unrestored versus restored. Last, we got a 77 Skidoo Blizzard up with a 440 Rotax in it.
This is water cooled. It does come with a speedometer, RPM, not a speedometer, or water temperature. You'll see on the side here, this is where they had their cooling. So when they run their water cooled and they had to cool it, they blocked off the hood and had cooling going down the running boards. Snow could fly against that and cool. You'll see they may use leaf springs and still really aluminum skis. Then they already went to a hydraulic disc brake, and so better stopping. This is mainly made for racing.
Along with the 73 Blizzard we got coming up here next. Kind of an interesting color scheme they got going here. It's still yellow, but a different kind of color to it or tint to it, and then with the orange hood.
Yeah, this was made some for, you could use it for cross country or regular racing. It was free air, left the motor out here, the cylinders, and the only thing bad about that was if you got into snow and fluff, and it'd fly up into your face and you'd fog you up. Look at this, really hold you in there, a back seat like this. You could just sit there and buck like a little bucket bronco like that, and just big smile. Again, hydraulic disc brakes and easy pull throttle.
Yeah, wrapping up this class, we got a 71 Skidoo Blizzard. It's restored with a 645 Rotax motor in there, Les.
This is again one of the Blizzards they made. This is only made for professional drivers, and this is what you can come and take a look sometime and look at how big this motor is compared to how big the chassis is. The motor is as big as wide as almost as the whole front end. It's just all motor. So when you grab a hold of that, the gas gets on your pants and everything else, but it's the thrill of the ride. Tune pipes, exhaust pipes on it, and a kill switch back up there. And they just had manual brakes back then. They did have a tachometer, speedometer, but you didn't rely on them. They weren't that accurate.
Starting here now with our 70-79 Skidoo Muscle restored sled, Les. And we're going to start it out with a 72 TNT.
This has a 775 twin cylinder, and you'll see how a sweeping windshield comes up like this. One thing about this 775 twin cylinder, it pulled over hard. It's got dual Tillotson carburetors, and one of our guys in our town, a small town, he had one of these. He come out of the bar, 3 pulls. If it wouldn't start 3 pulls, he walked home because it was so hard to pull over.
3 and done with it.
Yeah, 3 and done. But you can see on this, it still has the Skidoo seat, the way it looks, and this is really a nice looking sled. Even though it's how many years old, it's still cool looking. And everything else. I'm really glad they kept the history. They had the air cleaner on here now so that you didn't get your suit all full of gas.
Right. Okay, we're going to go over to our race 78 newer class. I don't even know where to start on this one, Les. Wow.
Yeah, this is really cool. Look at it. It's got a torsion bar. It's got an independent front end, and it's made to really go low. It's Rotex water-cooled motor again, Waconia carburetors, tachometer up here. This is what you call just mainly professional ice racer. That's why it's so low. You see here we have a little alterations. This is a character building hood. Right. So you accidentally, what you want to say it, had a little accident here and there because they go so fast and they can fly around sometimes, and it's really cool. You lean way off to the left. Every time you go around this is a left-hand turn sled. You have lube in one and fuel in the other. Mainly try to be as lightweight as all. They got a hook like this here, so you get down when you turn and just hug into the corners. And the main thing is the fun you have with this. This is the original racer. Cool looking. Got a lot of history. It'd be fun to hear about what it all is, Scott.
Yep, Team Decker, Decker sled. We have information about the Deckers right here for you. A lot of them very popular. A lot of history, a lot of story with that snowmobile. Yeah, used for racing. Skidoo had a big race program, heavily into racing, very important, a lot of money in racing.
And one thing they had is they picked up sponsors. So you'll see this here once in a while, you'll see out there, and the sponsors to help offset the cost of racing.
Yep. All right, we're going to wrap that up. That's our wrap here on the 2019 Waconia Ride-In for the featured snowmobiles. We'll be right back with some of our other sleds right after this.